This is Shane Harper from Good Luck Charlie and God's Not Dead, and you're watching Dispatch Radio.
All right, folks, we are going to continue with the faith-based themed films right now. We talked about Miracles from Heaven. We talked about Risen Again, and yes, I would promise to put together a best-of kind of list in time for Easter. And right ahead of Easter, right afterwards, we'll have another one, which is God's Not Dead Part 2. God's Not Dead 2 comes out April 1st, and we have one of the great actresses with us from the first film. She returns. Amy Ryan is the character. You may remember her. We'll talk to her a little bit about that. Trisha LaFache, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, Brandon?
Oh, so blessed. And it's got to be an exciting time to have a role in a movie with such great impact. I mean, even if the critics hated it, no one can deny not only the financial success, but obviously the impact on the faith-based community, Hollywood in general, and as well as invigorating Sony's Affirm Films and others to really dive into this market that's kind of been, I don't want to say neglected, but at least sort of overlooked for years, wouldn't you say?
I would. I mean, I agree with that statement for sure.
Yeah, and God's Not Dead 2 kind of takes a little bit of a different turn. Give everybody a little brief overview of the film itself, and then a little bit about what's going on with Amy in the new film.
Well, I would say, some people describe the first film as kind of a Christian crash, where there's a bunch of seemingly non-interweaved lives that kind of are brought together by this thing that they all believe in or are struggling to believe in. And so in that sense, the core of the film remains. So that's kind of aside the fact that myself and Paul Quo and a couple of the other characters are back and our storylines continue, it still has that same through line that the original movie had. But this time it's about a character, Melissa Joan Hart plays a teacher who answers a student's question, and there's a lot of upset individuals as a result.
Yeah, she co-stars with Dallas star Jesse Metcalfe, who becomes the attorney that defends her in court. And obviously, we've talked a lot on this show about separation of church and state and how we're becoming now a nation of silence, and that we will not allow free speech, and we should be proud of a country to freedom to be offended is the phrase that I use all the time. So now Trisha knows that I can speak our language. So, Amy was a character that was very kind of a radical atheist in a lot of ways, right? Kind of the extremist that wanted to get into the face of Willie Robertson and wants to really kind of catch someone that loved to race to the internet and publish gotcha statements and those kind of things. And she kind of goes through a transformation. Do we kind of keep picking up from that transformation? Does she have a regression? Are you allowed to tell us much of anything?
I hate telling anybody anything. I'm always like, there's too much in the trailer,
yeah.
kind of person. But you know what? It's not because of anything except for how I like to see movies. I always go, if I want to see a movie, I go opening weekend. So I don't have anybody else's opinions, telling me it's fantastic and then I hate it, or, that it's terrible and then I love it. So I should be better at that. But the honest answer is a little bit of both.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Let me go down even a more challenging area here, because I have to admit that I will agree with the critics in a lot of ways that God's Not Dead was really a lot more for the Christian community than it was a widespread or even a secular audience, and that most of the critics and most of the people that are not of the Christian faith did not like the film, or even in some cases or many cases are offended. Now, I've been a very vocal advocate that they need to get over themselves. Number one, not every Hollywood film is made for every Hollywood audience goer. I pointed out actually in this week's my review of Miracles from Heaven, the people that are going to see Deadpool are not going to like this movie. The people that are seeing this movie are not going to like Deadpool. Hollywood knows this, so get over yourselves.
Right.
Get over yourselves, critics. Will we see a little bit more of a wider appeal for God's Not Dead 2? Do we see something a little more open, or is it still probably mostly a lot of thought-provoking or a lot more of instigation of the Christian community primarily?
Oh, God. Way to ask a compound question, Brandon. I would say that, the critic's job is to do what the critic's job does. And again, I am not the type of person that looks at a Rotten Tomato or, I go to see a movie because I want to see the director or the writer. Not even usually, to be honest, the actors, but sometimes, less and less, nowadays. So here's the thing. I absolutely agree with you that, it's a, let's go back to what you said before about freedom of speech. To me, I feel like the movie is not pretending to be, neither movie is pretending to be anything other than what it is. Yeah. The first film, I don't even think we thought anybody was going to see. I certainly didn't. And in all honesty, they were like, I read the script. I loved Amy. I thought she was so tough and strong. And I've never, the thought of like somebody going through cancer by themselves. I mean, I'm, surrounded by friends and family and love at all times. So I just was just like, I'm willing to go in that headspace and hang out in New Orleans for a few weeks and make a movie. I really, it's so difficult for me because I'm from New York. I was raised by a criminal defense attorney. I went to law school. The thought of people being offended by really anything that is, I mean, dare I say art, but to me, I think I just have a weird perspective on it because I'm like, to each their own in a way. I remember shortly after, well, I guess it was a little further after, but, and I don't want to slam anything else, but Mad Max was nominated for Best Oscar or Best Picture. And I was like, I wanted to leave because I was like, this is, A, I'm dizzy. B, there's no story. I just was, it's so violent and there's so, so to me it's like, wow, people aren't upset about, mass murdering in all over the country that happens constantly or with great frequency, but they're offended by a movie about people who believe in Jesus. And that's not even, having anything to do with my faith or anything like that. It's just, to me, it's just like, oh, wow. Now, are you saying like, oh, well, maybe it could have been done in a less heavy-handed way or whatever. I mean, there are parts about those things. And also, nobody accused me of being bad in the movie. I never read a single review. And in fact, in most of the reviews, people said I was good. So that's really all I care
about. We're talking about God's Not Dead 2. It comes out April 1st. And, Trisha and I really do agree a lot more than maybe she even realizes because I use Deadpool as my example where we're all supposed to believe this is some sort of great revolutionary superhero movie that is so ridiculously offensive and insulting and degrading of women and everything else that to believe that just saying the word Jesus in a classroom, to have 10 commandments on the property of a courthouse, to have crosses or having football players kneel and pray, these are offensive. We've gotten to a silly place, and I will always probably keep God's Not Dead on my best of list, I'll tell you now, because it at least ventured down the road to have that discussion. And if this was a Hollywood independent film, or if this was some sort of thing and it dealt with transgenders or homosexuality or whatever back in the day, it would have been commended for at least having that conversation. And God's Not Dead didn't get that credit from the critic pool, and I think it's absurd. And it's great to see the second film come out. It's great to hear Trisha talk about Amy and her development. And I hope that maybe we're a little more open-minded. I wish I could believe that about our society and our culture right now, Trisha, but I really don't necessarily see that on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
It's what it is. Let's talk about, because you started out, people don't maybe not realize this. You've been doing this for a couple days. Garden State. So that was written and directed by Zach Braff. People know from Scrubs. You've done a lot of TV work, Law and Order, done Mad Men, all sorts of different stuff. So, how, besides the making the living part of it and the love of acting part of it, what is it that you're seeking out now? What's interesting to you when you pick up a script or you're out trying to seek a part?
Well, to be honest with you, actually, I really do. I write a lot, and I just directed my first film, and
awesome.
and I'm looking to do another. Actually, the next thing that I'm doing, I wrote and I'm directing. To me, it's all about the character and the story. I also teach and coach actors at one of the most successful acting studios in Los Angeles, Leslie Kahn and Company. And so I know all of the material that's out there all the time, and there's plenty of it. But it is a business, and so kind of the longer you're in the business, you understand that I think that's the longer you're in it, the more you kind of want to take control of your own career, really, and not leave it in the hands of others. But the last role I played, I just did a movie where I played an idiot who can't dance, and I'm basically, not all lawyers are smart, but I'm normally the smartest person in the room, and also like have amazing rhythm. I'm a classically trained ballerina, so I was like, this is fun. I almost never play an idiot. Like when I went for the audition, I was like, yeah, right. Nobody's going to believe me as this. And it was super fun, but it was also difficult on set because, everybody was laughing at me because it was funny, but also I was like, wait, but I'm really not dumb. But then I was like, wow, you got to get over yourself, dude. It's fine.
Well, they're buying it. That means you're doing a good job.
It was a really fun shoot, yeah.
So tell us about the film that you just directed, because that'd be great to get a little insight in that if you're allowed to tell us too much.
It was a project that was brought to me that I spent some time rewriting, and I actually just got a team together. I got a director of photography and a bunch of people that I had worked with a few years ago and maintained relationships with, and then, cast all my friends who are the best actors that I know. And we shot it here in Los Angeles, and it's about these two homeless teenagers, and our hero did some time in Afghanistan. It's just kind of like a day in their life. It's not a comedy. It's very dark, but it's stunningly gorgeous, and it was so much fun to do. There was just a point where I was standing behind the monitor, and I said to the gaffer, and the gaffer is the guy who does the light, I said, is this shot a little blue? And he goes, I don't know, you tell me, you're the boss. And I was like, oh my God, I am the boss. I never want to not be the boss again. And so it's just like, I'm in love, check, so it was just so much fun. I love running a crew. I love the crew in general. I was so honored and blessed to have a lot of time on God's Not Dead 2. I was in Little Rock for a really long time this summer, and a lot of the stuff, many of the days, I didn't have the emotional weight to carry that I had to in the first film, and so my friend was like, you want to direct? Pay attention and, ask a lot of questions. I'm like, I can't ask questions to these guys. They're working. He's like, when they have a second, he's like, they're not going to mind. So, there's A and B camera usually, and so A camera has most of the weight, and so I would just get in B camera's ear and be like, so what does that mean? Why are they doing that? And what lens is this? So, and it's funny because I always had the instinct to do that. When the first movie that I did after Garden State, which was my first film, was a movie called The Secret, not the self-help book Secret, but a film starring David Duchovny and Olivia Thirlby and Lily Taylor. And I was lucky to be on that set for a long time too, about 3 months in Montreal, which was amazing. But the director was French, and we were shooting in Montreal, so I was convinced that everybody was going to be speaking in French the whole time. And I was, I need to know if they're going to move the light, why they're moving it, or what's happening if they're going to be talking. So I was, on the subway in New York, like, ooh, la bibliothèque with my little French, so I basically learned French to go to Montreal, and then it turned out that the DP was from Toronto, so they had to speak to him in English anyway.
Wow, great stuff. Great stuff. Behind the scenes, Trisha's previewing God's Not Dead 2, which opens April 1st, but obviously also just revealing just coming out from in front of the camera to behind the camera, and just tapping into just an amazing gift and an exciting time for her to become more of a writer and a director. And I really hope that really pays off for her, and she can really tap into her experiences to bring amazing stuff for us and tell some good stories.
Thank you.